A Russian vehicle does not need to reach a trench to become a target. A supply truck moving along a road 50 kilometers from the front line. A fuel depot sitting behind a tree line. A radar installation in what was once considered a safe rear area. A group of infantry crossing open ground between two positions. All of these things can now be seen from the sky, tracked in real time and struck before the people inside them understand that they have entered a kill zone. That is the fundamental change that Ukraine's drone war has introduced to modern combat, and it is rewriting every assumption that large conventional armies have built their doctrine around for the last 50 years. Ukraine is not trying to match Russia's soldier for soldier. It cannot. Russia has more manpower, more artillery ammunition in reserve, and more armored vehicles in storage than Ukraine could replace through any combination of domestic production and foreign aid. If Kiev tried to answer that advantage purely through conventional military means, trading tank for tank, shell for shell, soldier for soldier, the cost would be unsustainable. So Ukraine searched for a different method. That method is built around a simple principle. Find the enemy first, decide faster than the enemy can react, and strike with the right weapon before the target disappears. Drones fit that principle more completely than any other weapon system available at the scale and cost Ukraine requires. And Ukraine has built an entire military strategy around them. The creation of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces a separate military branch dedicated entirely to unmanned operations, shows how serious this shift has become. This is not a specialized unit with a few quadcopters assigned to reconnaissance missions. It is a full military branch with operations across every domain of the battlefield. Unmanned aerial vehicles provide persistent surveillance above Russian positions, supply routes, and staging areas. Unmanned ground vehicles support missions where sending soldiers into exposed terrain would be too costly in lives. Naval surface drones have fundamentally changed the balance of power in the Black Sea, forcing Russia to protect ships, ports, and coastal infrastructure in ways its doctrine never anticipated. Underwater systems add another layer of threat in areas where conventional naval forces are difficult to deploy. Together, these platforms represent something that most militaries in the world are still trying to build: a direct, real-time connection between surveillance technology, strike capability, and battlefield decision-making. The key to understanding why this matters is the concept of the kill chain. In traditional warfare, the distance between seeing a target and destroying it involves multiple steps, multiple command levels, multiple communication links, and significant time. A reconnaissance aircraft finds a target. The information is reported to a command center. Orders are issued. Strike assets are tasked. The weapon is delivered. The entire process can take hours. By the time the weapon arrives, the target may have moved. Ukraine's drone architecture compresses this process to minutes or seconds. A reconnaissance UAV identifies a Russian vehicle. The operator passes the coordinates to an FPV drone team operating nearby. The FPV pilot acquires the target on video, guides the drone to impact, and the vehicle is destroyed, all within a time window that gives the target almost no opportunity to respond. The drone is not just a weapon. It is the entire kill chain compressed into a single operational loop. This compression is especially important on a battlefield where Russian tactical doctrine relies on repeated pressure. Moscow's ground forces have been using a method built around continuous probing, sending infantry groups, armored vehicles, motorcycles, and light transport forward in repeated waves, testing for weak points in Ukrainian defensive lines and accepting losses in exchange for finding and exploiting gaps. Each of those movements, however, creates a signature. A vehicle leaves cover. A squad crosses open ground. A convoy uses the same road twice in the same day. Once Ukrainian reconnaissance EAVs detect that pattern, the movement can be tracked before it reaches the defensive line. The road becomes a trap. The routine convoy becomes a target. And the assault that was supposed to test Ukrainian defenses instead becomes a demonstration of what happens when infantry moves under observation without adequate countermeasures. The scale of Ukraine's drone production is one of the most strategically significant numbers in the war. Public figures from Ukrainian defense officials indicate that the country produced more than 4 million drones in 2025. The target for 2026 is more than 7 million. If partner funding remains consistent, Ukrainian officials have stated the country could reach 20 million drones per year. These numbers need context. A production capacity of 20 million drones annually means that Ukraine could replace its entire current drone inventory multiple times per month. It means that losses drones shot down by Russian electronic warfare, intercepted by anti-drone systems, or simply expended in combat can be replenished faster than the rate of attrition. And it means that the economic asymmetry of the drone war becomes permanently disadvantageous for Russia. An FPV drone costs between $300 and $800 to build. The armored vehicle it destroys costs between $500,000 and $4 million. The surface-to-air missile Russia fires to intercept a drone costs more than the drone being intercepted. At production scale, Ukraine can sustain an attrition rate that is simply not economically viable for Russia to match weapon for weapon. But the number of drones matters less than the speed of adaptation. Ukraine has built a production ecosystem that can translate combat experience directly into design changes within days. When FPV operators report that a specific Russian electronic warfare system is defeating a particular drone model, engineers can modify the design, test a revised version, and deliver improved systems to the front within a production cycle that would take a major defense contractor months or years to complete. This short loop between combat feedback and production response is one of Ukraine's most significant structural advantages. The battlefield is teaching the factory in real time, and the factory is teaching the battlefield back. The most significant recent development in Ukraine's drone program is the widespread adoption of fiber optic guidance systems. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the electronic warfare problem. Throughout the war, both sides have used ground-based jamming systems to interfere with the radio frequency links that connect drone operators to their aircraft. A conventional FPV drone communicates with its operator through radio signals. Control commands go from the controller to the drone, and video feeds come back from the drone to the operator's screen. If a Russian jamming system finds and overwhelms the frequency being used, the drone loses its control signal and typically falls to the ground or flies into an uncontrolled trajectory. Electronic warfare became one of the primary countermeasures against cheap attack drones, and it was effective enough that entire sectors of the front periodically saw FPV effectiveness drop significantly. When Russian jamming systems were operating, fiber optic drones solve this problem in the most direct way possible. Instead of transmitting commands and video through radio waves that can be intercepted and jammed, a fiber optic drone unspools a thin physical cable as it flies forward. The control signals and video feed travel through the cable, a medium that cannot be jammed by any radio frequency interference system because it does not use radio frequencies. As long as the cable remains intact, the operator maintains complete control and a stable video feed regardless of the electronic warfare environment. Reports from the battlefield suggest that fiber optic systems can operate effectively at ranges exceeding 30 kilometers while maintaining the video quality that operators need to guide precise strikes. Russia was the first to deploy these systems at scale in sectors around Kursk. Ukraine observed the results, analyzed the technology, and began producing its own versions. By mid-19th war, more than 80 Ukrainian-designed fiber optic drone systems had reportedly been approved for operational use, with the number growing rapidly. The expansion of drone warfare beyond the immediate front line is creating what analysts are beginning to call a new kind of no man's land. Not the narrow strip of exposed ground between opposing trenches, but a wide, fluid zone of danger that extends across every road, depot, rail junction, and support facility that a modern army needs to function. Ukraine's medium-range drones are striking targets 200 to 300 kilometers behind the front line. Fuel depots, ammunition storage facilities, railway junctions that feed supplies into the occupied territories, oil refinery infrastructure, the Novorossiysk highway corridor that connects Russian logistics from Rostov to Crimea through occupied southern Ukraine. These are not battlefield targets in the traditional sense. They are the circulatory system of Russia's war effort. And when that circulatory system comes under regular drone attack, the effects compound. A fuel shortage means tanks stop. An ammunition delay means artillery fires less. A disrupted supply route means infantry waits longer for food, medicine, and replacement equipment. The front line feels the pressure of a strike that happened 200 kilometers away, days later through a chain of logistical consequences that are difficult to trace back to a single cause. The human factor in this drone war is frequently underestimated in analyses that focuses primarily on the machines. Ukraine's drone program depends on a generation of operators who are learning, adapting, and innovating at a pace that formal military training programs cannot match. Small teams of FPV pilots have developed tactical approaches specific to terrain, weather, target type, and the electronic warfare environment in their sector. A pilot who discovers a more effective attack profile shares that information with other pilots. A reconnaissance operator who identifies a pattern in Russian movement timing teaches that observation to others. This informal, distributed learning system operates faster than any doctrine update cycle in any conventional military. The site that learns faster is gaining advantages that are difficult to quantify but visible in outcomes. For Russia, the strategic pressure from Ukraine's drone war is creating a problem that has no simple military solution. Moving large forces requires roads, fuel, and timing. But roads are now observed from above. Fuel depots are targets. Timing is disrupted by strikes that hit supply chains at unpredictable points. If Russian commanders move forces in large groups, they become easier to detect and more valuable as targets. Break into smaller groups to reduce visibility. They lose coordination and mutual support. If they wait for better conditions, they lose tactical initiative. Every adaptation has a cost, and Ukraine's drone network forces those adaptations continuously. For NATO, the United States, and every conventional military currently studying this war, the lesson is the same regardless of which side you are examining. Military power in the modern era is no longer defined solely by the number of tanks in storage, the weight of artillery shells available, or the number of soldiers in uniform. It is defined by the ability to see the battlefield before the enemy does, to share that information faster than the enemy can react, and to strike with precision at a cost that is economically sustainable over the duration of a long conflict. Ukraine has demonstrated that a country with limited resources and smaller conventional forces can sustain a war against a much larger adversary by building this kind of distributed, adaptive, sensor-connected strike capability at scale. The armies that treat drones as supplementary equipment, useful additions to a conventional force structure, may find themselves at a fundamental disadvantage in the next conflict that looks like this one. The armies that build unmanned systems into the center of their doctrine, their command structure, and their production planning may find themselves holding the decisive advantage in a war that neither side fully predicted would look this way. The battlefield above the trenches has become as important as the trenches themselves, and the weapon that controls that space costs $300 and fits in a backpack.